In this video, we're going to talk about correlation coefficients. When we plot points into a scatter plot, most of the time we end up with some sort of pattern, some sort of a relationship, some sort of correlation, right? Which shows that there is a relationship that exists between the x values and the y values that we're measuring. So if you look on the screen here, we have a scale of correlation coefficients. Correlation coefficients range from anywhere between 1 to -1, and that's inclusive, so that means it could be 1 or it could be -1. It's not possible for a correlation coefficient to be higher than 1 or lower than -1. So if you make a scatter plot and the correlation coefficient is a 1, that means that all the points lined up perfectly into a line. That means it's a perfect positive linear relationship. And the same goes for -1. The only difference is that it would be negative. That's a perfect negative linear relationship. Right smack dab between 1 and -1 is 0, and that would mean that there is no correlation at all. That would mean that the x and the y values have no relationship whatsoever between them. So all the numbers between -1 and 0 and 0 and 1, those are different varying scales of strength. So as you can see here on the screen, a 0.9 correlation coefficient, which is letter R, that's pretty strong. That's very strong, and that's a positive. As we go to the next graph, we see 0.75. That's still pretty strong, positive. And then once you start to get smaller towards 0, you see that it starts to become weaker. And you can tell that it's going to be weak because the dots don't really have a linear pattern to them. They don't really go in a specific direction. The same goes for the negative, but obviously in the opposite direction. So -0.9 is pretty strong, and -0.75 is still pretty strong, and -0.4 is pretty weak. So when you look at these scatter plots, you should get a general idea of the strength of the relationship between the x and the y. But the R value, the correlation coefficient, that's what tells you exactly how strong or how weak the relationship is between those two.